everyone, and welcome back to the Nature's Reality YouTube channel. In today's video, I'll be taking you along with me on the recent 7 days I spent in the Canadian wilderness. The first half of this journey primarily takes place within the forests surrounding my cottage, which is nestled within central Ontario. The second half of the adventure takes place in Bisco Tossing, Ontario, which is a small town with an annual population of only about 20 residents, where me and some of my family members spent time fishing for northern pike and exploring the surrounding boreal wilderness. And sticking to true Nature's Reality fashion, within this video contains a plethora of lore regarding the animals that I encountered throughout this adventure. Anyways, be sure to like and subscribe, and I hope that you all enjoy this video. On the morning of day 1, I emerged from my home to see this mess on my front porch. Furious at the disaster, I looked up and spotted the culprit, a devious and plump American robin, who tried and failed to build a nest on my front porch. While these birds can appear rather unassuming, their range encompasses almost the entirety of North America. The migration patterns of the American robin are also rather complex, with migrations varying amongst regional populations and depending on regional food scarcity. Once the car was all ready to go, I began my 2.5-hour drive to my cottage. I appreciate this drive because it allows me to experience the transition of the environment in southern Ontario to the more forested and relatively shielded environment of central Ontario. The environment of southern Ontario is largely mixed woodlands, grasslands, and occasional thick deciduous forests. I would say that the southern parts of the Bruce Trail are some of the best ways to experience this kind of environment in southern Ontario. Unfortunately, much of this natural environment in southern Ontario has been lost or fragmented over time, as urban sprawl within southern Ontario is extremely prevalent. On the way there, we stopped at Weber's for the first time ever, which is a rather famous burger spot in cottage country. The burger was decent, however, the poutine was kinda, they just stacked all the gravy and cheese curds at the top, which, you know, you kinda gotta layer it or you gotta evenly disperse it throughout, because you get a little bit of gravy and cheese and then you're just eating straight fries, which is disappointing. Cool and rare car setting. And at last we reached the cottage road, which is a couple kilometers long and is essentially this windy, rocky dirt road through the forest. And I like it because whenever you bring somebody new to the cottage, especially if you arrive at night, you know, it's kind of like spooky because you gotta go down this dirt, you know, narrow road, and everyone thinks, you know, you're going so deep into the woods. It's truly a very immersive experience, and it really feels like you're being transported to an entirely different realm. I want to mention that my cottage isn't one of those, you know, Muskoka lakefront properties with all the great amenities in the world. It's a wonderfully built cottage nestled in the woods on a river. We don't have Wi-Fi, you know, no TV. Electricity comes from a generator. There's no running hot water, and, you know, no air conditioning. And, you know, it gets really buggy. Sometimes it feels uncomfortable, especially at night when, you know, the night brings no relief from the hot, humid days. And sometimes, you know, like I said, it's an uncomfortable place to be. However, it's amazing. It's, you know, you're so immersed in the forest. You're one with the environment. It's such an intimate experience to be able to be there. And, you know, I'm incredibly lucky to have something like this in my family. I truly wish that everyone could have something like this, because I think that experiencing nature is such an important thing. But, you know, today it's very difficult for people to get something like this. It's difficult for people to have a house, so I'm incredibly grateful to have something like this. I wish that everyone could experience nature in the same way. It's my favorite place in the entire world, without a doubt. Shortly after arriving, I got the whole family situated, got a nice little fire going, and just took the evening easy, grateful for the fact that we had all made it safe and sound. The next day was pretty awesome, as soon as I woke up, I was treated with a beaver sighting. Despite their association with forested regions, beavers are not limited to them and can be found throughout a vast portion of the North American continent, all the way from northern Alaska to northern parts of Mexico. My father and younger brother were lucky enough to spot a moose running across the road. Unfortunately, I was not with them and did not get a picture. However, here is a moose I spotted alongside the cottage road a few years back. It was very well camouflaged, and it was hard for me to spot her at first, but here's a picture. My kayak had been on my mind all winter long, so I was really itching to get out on the water. So, took out the kayak and went for a nice little paddle in the morning. After taking my kayak out of the water, I spotted a nice little crayfish over there, which you can now see on screen. This individual belongs to the species known as the northern clearwater crayfish. This species has a rather vast range and can be found as far north as northern Ontario and as far south as the southern reaches of the Appalachians. Unfortunately, northern clearwater crayfish populations are ongoingly impacted by the invasive rusty crayfish. The rusty crayfish is an aggressive species that outcompetes the northern clearwater in their native habitat and has been found in parts of southern Ontario and northern Ontario. The rusty crayfish is a native of the Ohio River Basin and was spread throughout Ontario by anglers who would use them as bait and through the dispersal of their eggs, which would get stuck to boats and such and then be transported from one water body to the next. Later I took to moving some bags of gravel and discovered a couple of cool species of salamander. This here is the blue spotted salamander. Their tails release a toxin that is a skin irritant and I was definitely feeling the burn. It isn't recommended to handle them, but I was simply trying to move them to a better location as I had to remove the gravel bags and I didn't want to just leave them out in the open. The blue-spotted salamander is a type of mole salamander which is native to the Great Lakes region, the northeastern United States, and parts of Ontario and Quebec. Interestingly, blue-spotted salamanders possess regenerative abilities and can regrow portions of a lost limb or tail. Also lurking underneath the gravel bags was this red-backed salamander. Red-backed salamanders are known to get territorial and aggressive towards other salamanders, although they seem to be peacefully coexisting with the blue-spotted salamanders I found. Red-backed salamanders are also very common within the woodlands they inhabit, especially in Ontario. After relocating the salamanders, I took a walk to the falls with my puppy. Then, wandering through the grass, I found a banded woolly bear caterpillar. These caterpillars are the larval form of the Isabella tiger moth. As the sun began to set, I got another fire going and was lucky enough to spot the beaver again. Fires at the cottage, they always hit. The next morning, I came outside and was lucky enough to spot a pileated woodpecker. The pileated woodpecker is a beautiful bird that can be found throughout most of the eastern United States and Canada, the Pacific Northwest, and boreal forested regions spanning from the eastern side of Canada to western Canada. See, I love range maps so much because they can kind of allow you to gauge the kind of environment that these animals inhabit. You can see that kind of stretch all the way from Ontario, even Quebec, that goes all the way through Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and into British Columbia. That's all like boreal forest, and it's cool how they only kind of inhabit those parts. A combination of fierce wind storms and ice storms have done a number on the forest surrounding the cottage. Photos there show you the damage that some of the trees took during such storms this past winter. So we had to get to work on cleaning it all up.
Film like going on my kayak with my phone and it sucks. Yeah. I bought this like Amazon GoPro thing. Yeah. But
later on, I spotted this tank of a common snapping turtle, and they had a plump little leech clinging onto their shell. Common snapping turtles and alligator snapping turtles are two different species of snapping turtle that can be found in North America. Alligator snapping turtles are actually not found in Canada and are natives to the Mississippi River basin, whereas common snapping turtles have a much vaster range, spanning all across the eastern United States and parts of Canada. Then I discovered this large and dead brown prionid beetle. Something to consider is that they can grow to be 2 inches long and are capable of flight, which I think would scare the shit out of many of my family members. Then later on, me and my cousin got into some fishing. I was using this orange soft plastic trying to catch a walleye because it was the opener, but instead I caught a muskie. Unfortunately, they were out of season at the time, but fortunately, I released her back into the water safe and sound. Beautiful fish though, really looks like a leopard here or a jaguar. Just an incredible predator of the river. Despite being similar in appearance and sharing common ancestry, northern pike and muskie are 2 different species of fish. Northern pike are the most widely distributed freshwater fish in the entire world. They can be found in North America, Asia, and Europe, whereas the muskie is limited to a small portion of eastern North America. And later that night, I was lucky enough to spot a porcupine.
For real? You want to take a picture?
That night was capped off with a delicious dessert that we call mice, which is essentially just deep fried balls of yeast dough coated in sugar or lemon zest, Nutella, or cinnamon. Shout out to my parents who were gracious enough to make them and share them with all of us. As for my adventure, this would be the last night spent at the cottage. The next morning I woke up super early to go fishing, but unfortunately caught nothing. I returned later in the day in an attempt to catch walleye, and yet again I caught a muskie, this time a very small one. I then discovered a very dead American toad, and then I found a less dead American toad.
You're so chill, babe.
After days of convincing, I finally got Allie to try some fishing. On the way out, we stopped at the local burger stand, which unlike Weber's, knows how to make a proper poutine. Now that the cottage journey was complete, it was time to prepare for Bisco Tossing. A quick stop at Walmart to gather all our food supplies, and then at 3 o'clock in the morning, we embarked on the 7.5-hour journey to get to Bisco Tossing. The drive from Toronto to about Sudbury is very nice, but once you get past Sudbury, I'd say the environment becomes much more rugged, lots more lakes, even a couple fast-flowing waterfalls. Very beautiful overall, some of the best Canadian Shield scenery you will find anywhere.
Oh, dude, this is so fucking gorgeous.
And right after the dirt road that connects you to Bisco Tossing is an Arctic watershed marker, which essentially indicates that all water past this point flows out to the Arctic Ocean. I love this marker because it makes the journey feel more northern and more rugged. Very cool overall. From the highway to get to Bisco, you can see that kind of squiggly line there. That's the dirt road that you have to take, which takes you to Bisco Tossing. It's about like an hour and a half off the main highway, which again adds to the overall journey as you're driving down this bumpy, pothole-filled industrial road. Very cool overall though, and it does feel rather remote and isolated from the world, even though you do still see obviously transport trucks that help fuel the industry and the various people driving in to and from their jobs along the road. And then before we knew it, we were fishing. We were catching pike more than we could count, just cast after cast. Unfortunately though, I'd say the size of them wasn't the biggest. For sure, a lot of them would be classified as hammer handles, which is what you call smaller pike. But, you know, they were just very aggressive and striking everything. Here, Nick found a leech. He tried to pick it up, but it latched onto him.
Spring peepers.
The frog in question, a spring peeper.
Dude, he's way more alive.
We continued to land pike in good numbers, but I'm telling you, every time I tried to record myself fishing, I just had no luck in catching fish. And as soon as I would stop recording, I would catch something. It was ridiculous. Anyways, I saw a bald eagle, which was amazing.
Is right here good, or did you say this part? Yeah, that and the noise of it, dude. It sounded like I was at a fucking...
Oh.
You know the Algonquin place? The Algonquin?
Wow.
Are you taking a video?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I'm glad I can hear the loon calls.
That honestly makes me want to bust way more than any fish.
Dude, there's a leech swimming in the water and it looks insane.
And the first night in Bisco, we wrapped up with a good pasta and ground beef dinner. The next day, we set off to explore the surrounding forests and do a lot of fishing.
Look at this alley. Birch bark. Look at this guy. The maiden voyage.
I'm taking the rock first.
After being ferried over to the island via canoe, we thought there'd be some good fishing, but we caught nothing.
Wow, this is such a nice moss bed. I actually feel bad.
Still, the island was beautiful to explore, and later we headed to town and prepared breakfast. Then after breakfast, I caught the cutest pike I'd ever seen. Despite their smaller size, these pike were loads of fun to catch. They were so aggressive, and we were even catching them on figure eights. And as I mentioned previously, there's the range of the northern pike, the greatest range of any freshwater fish. In the clip after this one, if you watch closely, you can see the scar of a pike, which is just kind of following my lure around. Again, these guys were so aggressive, they'd follow the lure right up to shore and like jump out of the water trying to get them. It was loads of fun. Then later in the afternoon, we started catching these white suckerfish, which unbeknownst to us were very prevalent right now as they were spawning. They can be found all throughout Ontario and are very aggressive during their spawn. I made a dinner consisting of steak and mushrooms, mashed potatoes, and beans, and then we settled in for the night. My cousins found it annoying, but I enjoyed the train at night. You don't get starry skies like this in the big cities. The next day we spotted a black bear. I didn't get a picture, so here's a video from when I visited British Columbia and spotted this mother bear and her 2 cubs. A beaver dam had washed out and destroyed this part of the road, making it very sketchy to drive over.
Nah, I got it. What a silly name.
These suckerfish fought so hard. They would just take the lure and drive it down river. Their aggression was next level. Well everyone, that concludes the video and the adventure. I hope that you enjoyed watching. I'd like to make more content like this in the future, and hopefully in more long form video. While the photos are okay right now, I don't always want to do this. I rather have long clips that I personally find more entertaining. However, I still hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.